Naomi loved her husband Ethan dearly, but something was wrong. After 3 years of marriage, they still didn't have a child. Ethan avoided talking about it, but Naomi's instinct told her there was a deeper issue. Determined to understand, she secretly arranged for both of them to get tested at a fertility clinic. The result shattered her. Ethan had a low sperm count, making it very difficult for them to conceive naturally. Naomi didn't blame him, but she could see the pain in his eyes when she gently brought up the topic. Ethan, feeling ashamed, brushed it off and buried himself in work. Naomi decided to take matters into her own hands to protect his pride and save their marriage. She sought out artificial insemination, hoping it would give them the baby they so desperately wanted. Naomi turned to Dr. Eleanor, a trusted family doctor, for help. The procedure seemed simple, but an unforeseen error occurred. Dr. Eleanor accidentally used the sperm of Damian Steele, a billionaire seeking a surrogate, instead of Ethan's. Unaware of the mix-up, Naomi returned home, hopeful that her secret plan would work. Naomi's effort to keep their marriage afloat went unnoticed by Ethan. Feeling emasculated and resentful, he sought comfort elsewhere. That comfort came in the form of Naomi's best friend, Vanessa. Vanessa had always envied Naomi's life and saw Ethan's vulnerability as an opportunity. Vanessa manipulated Ethan into an affair, feeding his ego and convincing him that she was pregnant with his child. Ethan, desperate to believe he could still father a child, clung to her lies. Vanessa enjoyed the power she held over him, all while plotting to take Naomi's place. Naomi's world came crashing down one evening when she walked in on Ethan and Vanessa together. Her heart broke as Ethan coldly accused her of being unable to give him a family. The irony was cruel. Ethan didn't know that he was the one who couldn't have children. Naomi didn't fight back. Instead, she walked away, carrying a secret that would soon change everything. Dr. Eleanor, guilt-ridden over the mistake, called Naomi to confess. Naomi was shocked to learn that the sperm used for the procedure belonged to Damian Steele, a billionaire known for his private and guarded life. He had sought a surrogate because he didn't believe in love and didn't want the complication of a relationship. Damian's lawyer contacted Naomi soon after, demanding a meeting. When Naomi met Damian, she expected arrogance, but instead found a man who was as broken as she felt. He explained his predicament. His grandfather, a powerful tycoon, would only hand over the family business if Damian was married with a child. The mistake presented an opportunity for both of them. Damian proposed a deal. Naomi would pretend to be his fiancée and carry the child publicly in exchange for financial security and support. Naomi hesitated but realized this could provide a stable future for her unborn baby. She agreed, stepping into a world of luxury and scrutiny she had never known. Naomi's first step in her new life was to end her old one. She handed Ethan divorce papers. Ethan, stunned, begged her to stay, but Naomi's resolve was firm. She didn't tell him about the baby or Damian. She didn't owe him that much after his betrayal. Vanessa, triumphant, moved with Ethan, but her victory was short-lived. As the weeks passed, Ethan began to notice cracks in her story. She avoided doctors and made excuses to hide her non-existent pregnancy. The truth finally came out, leaving Ethan humiliated and alone. Meanwhile, Naomi adjusted to life in Damian's mansion. It was grand but cold, much like Damian himself. The man was guarded, keeping their interaction strictly professional. Naomi focused on preparing for her new baby, trying to ignore the loneliness that crept in. Despite his icy demeanor, Damian couldn't help but notice Naomi's resilience. She wasn't intimidated by his wealth or power. Her kindness extended even to the mansion staff, something Damian had never seen in his world of business deals and fake smiles. One evening, Damian found Naomi sitting in the garden, talking to one of the gardeners about her dreams for her child. Her genuine warmth caught him off guard. For the first time, he saw her as more than a means to an end. Naomi in turn began to see glimpses of the man behind the walls he had built around himself. Back in Ethan's world, his life unraveled further. He reached out to Naomi, hoping to win her back. But she made it clear that their chapter was closed. Ethan's regret grew as he realized the depth of what he had lost. Naomi's days in Damian's mansion were unlike anything she had ever experienced. The mansion was huge with sparkling chandeliers, polished floors, and staff that attended to her every need. But it didn't feel like home. Damian kept his distance, busy with meetings and phone calls, leaving Naomi to navigate her new life alone. One day, she decided to explore the library. She found a book about parenting and couldn't help but imagine what her child's life would be like. Would the baby grow up in this house, surrounded by wealth but no warmth? The thought worried her, but she reminded herself that she had made his choice to give her child the best chance at life. That evening, Damian returned home earlier than usual. He saw Naomi reading in the library and paused. She looked peaceful, her hand resting on her growing belly. He didn't say anything, but for the first time, he wondered if his carefully planned life had room for something real. Ethan sat alone in a small apartment he had moved into after Vanessa kicked him out. Her lies had caught up to her, and she had quickly moved on to another man who could provide the life she wanted. Ethan, left with nothing, replayed his mistake over and over in his mind. He thought about Naomi, how patient and kind she has been. He had taken her love for granted, and now she was gone. He tried calling her, but she didn't answer. He even visited her old workplace, but she had left her job. Ethan realized he had truly lost her. One day, Ethan ran into an old friend who mentioned seeing Naomi in a magazine. She was pictured next to Damian Steele, looking radiant and happy. The article claimed they were engaged. Ethan was stunned. Who was this billionaire? And how had Naomi ended up in his world? Naomi's pregnancy was progressing smoothly, and the staff in Damian's mansion treated her like royalty. But she still felt out of place. She missed simple things, like cooking her own meals or walking through the park. One afternoon, Damian surprised her by inviting her to a quiet lunch in the garden. It was the first time they had shared a meal alone since she moved in. The conversation started awkwardly, but Naomi decided to ask him about his childhood. Damian hesitated, but eventually shared that his parents had been distant, more focused on their business than on him. His grandfather had been the only one who showed him love, but even that came with high expectation. Naomi listened intently, her warmth breaking through Damian's usual defenses. As they talked, Damian realized that Naomi wasn't just kind, she was strong. She had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and uncertainty. Yet she remained hopeful. For the first time, he felt a flicker of something unfamiliar: admiration. Naomi woke up one morning to find reporters outside the gate of the mansion. Pictures of her and Damian had leaked, and rumors about their engagement were all over the news. Damian's assistant advised them to make a public appearance to control the narrative. At the event, Damian held Naomi's hand, playing the role of a doting fiancé. Naomi felt nervous, but Damian's steady presence reassured her. Reporters asked questions about their relationship, and Damian expertly deflected, stating they were focused on preparing for arrival of their baby. Later that evening, Naomi asked Damian how he remained so calm under pressure. He smiled friendly and said, "When you have spent your life pretending, it becomes second nature." Naomi couldn't help but wonder what it would take for Damian to stop pretending and let someone in. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Naomi. Seeing her in the magazine had awakened something in him. He convinced himself that Naomi was only with Damian for the money and that she still loved him. He started digging into Damian's life, looking for anything he could use to win Naomi back. The more he learned about Damian's wealth and power, the more desperate Ethan became. He began to fantasize about confronting Damian and exposing him as a fraud. Ethan didn't realize his obsession was consuming him. He lost his job, stopped paying his bill, and spent all his time plotting ways to get Naomi back. He refused to accept that she had moved on. Naomi and Damian's relationship slowly began to change. They started having small moments of connection, like sharing breakfast or discussing baby names. Damian still kept his guard up, but Naomi saw glimpses of the man he could be if he let go of his fears. One evening, Naomi found Damian in his study, staring at an old photo of his grandfather. She asked him what was on his mind. Damian admitted that he was afraid he wouldn't be a good father. Naomi placed her hand on his and said, "You have a chance to be the father you always wanted. You just have to try." Damian looked at her, his usual cold expression softening. In that moment, he realized Naomi wasn't just carrying his child, she was changing his life in ways he never expected. Damian started showing small changes. He began paying more attention to Naomi's needs, ensuring she was comfortable and happy. When reporters continued to camp outside the mansion, he doubled security to protect her privacy. Naomi noticed these efforts, and though Damian still remained distant emotionally, his actions speak volumes. One evening, Damian found Naomi in the kitchen trying to bake cookies. The mansion staff had offered to help, but she insisted on doing it herself. The cookies were a little burnt, and Naomi laughed at her mistake. Damian, for the first time in years, laughed with her. It was a rare moment of normalcy in their otherwise complex arrangement. Naomi began to see Damian as more than a cold businessman. She wondered what had happened to cause him to build such a thick wall around himself. And for Damian, Naomi was no longer just the woman carrying his child. She was someone who made his house feel a little more like a home. Ethan's obsession grew darker. He started flowing news about Damian's business deal, hoping to find a crack in the billionaire's armor. He even considered sneaking onto Damian's property to see Naomi, but his better judgment held him back for now. Vanessa, seeing Ethan's deteriorating state, tried to rekindle their relationship, but Ethan wanted nothing to do with her. "I don't need you. I need Naomi." Vanessa, hurt but not surprised, decided to leave town and start fresh elsewhere. Ethan, now completely alone, began spiraling into dangerous territory. His jealousy and anger fueled reckless decisions, and he convinced himself that Naomi would only realize her mistake if he confronted Damian. Naomi's pregnancy was progressing beautifully. One afternoon, as she sat in the garden reading, she felt the baby kick for the first time. Excited, she rushed to find Damian, who was in a meeting. Bursting into the room, she grabbed his hand and placed it on her belly. The movement startled Damian. For a moment, all his business worries melted away. He felt the connection between the baby, his child, that he hadn't allowed himself to feel before. The meeting room fell silent as Damian's usually stoic face softened into a genuine smile. "That's amazing," he said quietly. After that moment, Damian found himself thinking more about the baby and Naomi. He began to imagine what life would be like a family, even though their arrangement was supposed to be temporary. Ethan couldn't take it anymore. He planned to confront Damian at his next public event. He found out through an online article that Naomi and Damian will be attending a charity gala together. Ethan decided he would crash the event and expose Damian as someone unworthy of Naomi. The night of the gala, Ethan, dressed in his best suit, thought he didn't compare to the guests who arrived in limousines and designer outfits. He slipped into the venue unnoticed, scanning the crowd for Naomi. When he spotted her, she was laughing at something Damian had said. Ethan clenched his feet, jealousy burning inside him. As the night went on, Ethan drank more than he could have. Finally, he approached the couple, his voice lowering as he shouted, "Naomi, what are you doing with this man? He's not who you think he is." The room went silent as Ethan's voice echoed. Naomi turned to see him standing there. She hadn't expected him to stoop this low, showing up at such an event to embarrass her. Damian, on the other hand, remained calm, his steely gaze locking onto Ethan. "Ethan, you need to leave," Naomi said firmly, her voice unwavering. But Ethan wasn't listening. "Naomi, he is using you. You don't belong here with him," he shouted, drawing the attention of the guests. Damian stepped forward, shielding Naomi from the prying eyes. "This is neither the time nor the place for your outburst," Damian said, his voice low but firm. "If you care about Naomi at all, you will walk away now." Ethan hesitated, his anger giving way to confusion. Seeing Damian's calm authority and Naomi's lack of reaction to his plea, he felt small and out of place. Security approached, and Ethan, realizing he had made a fool of himself, allowed them to escort him out. Back to the mansion, Naomi was quiet, replaying the scene of the gala in her mind. She felt a mix of emotion: anger at Ethan for his behavior, sadness for what they had lost, and relief that Damian had handled the situation with such composure. "I am sorry you had to deal with that," she said to Damian as they sat in the living room. He shook his head. "You don't have to apologize for someone else's action. I am just glad you are okay." Naomi looked at him, surprised by the genuine concern in his voice. "Thank you, Damian," she said softly, "for everything." For the first time, Damian didn't deflect her gratitude. Instead, he nodded, a small smile tugging out of the corners of his lips. "You are stronger than you give yourself credit for, Naomi," he said. And for a moment, the walls between them seemed to crumble. After being escorted out of the gala, Ethan wandered the street aimlessly, replaying the humiliation in his mind. He couldn't believe how far he had fallen. Naomi had moved on, and he was still stuck in the past, clinging to a life that no longer existed. He returned to his apartment and sat in the dark, staring at the divorce papers Naomi had signed months ago. For the first time, he began to truly accept that their marriage was over. He had pushed her away with his insecurities and mistakes, and now he had to face the consequences. Ethan decided to stop chasing Naomi and focus on rebuilding his life. It wouldn't be easy, but he knew it was the only way to find peace. As the week passed, Damian and Naomi's relationship continued to evolve. They spent more time together, bonding over the baby and sharing stories about their lives. Damian opened up about his childhood, his struggles with trust, and the pressure of living up to his family expectations. Naomi, in turn, shared her dreams for her child and her hopes for the future. They laughed and argued and supported each other in ways neither of them had expected. Slowly, what had started as a business arrangement began to feel like something more. One evening, as they watched a movie together in the mansion's theater room, Naomi felt the baby kick again. She grabbed Damian's hand and placed it on her belly. "Feel that?" she asked, her eyes lighting up. Damian nodded, a rare smile spreading across his face. "It's incredible," he said, his voice filled with wonder. In that moment, they both realized that their lives were changing in ways they hadn't anticipated. Just as things seemed to settle, an unwelcome face reappeared. Vanessa. She had heard about Damian and Naomi's supposed engagement and saw an opportunity to cause trouble. Vanessa tracked down Ethan, hoping to manipulate him into joining her plan. "Ethan, I know you are still very upset about Naomi, but don't you think it's strange how quickly she moved on?" Vanessa said, her eyes and voice dripping with feigned concern. "We could work together to show the world who Damian really is." Ethan, weary and tired of drama, hesitated. "I have made enough mistake, Vanessa. I am not interested in your schemes." But Vanessa wasn't one to give up easily. She decided to dig deeper into Damian's past, determined to uncover something the world could use to make mockery of Damian. Vanessa's determination to uncover dirt on Damian led her to investigate his past ruthlessly. She found an old business associate who was disgruntled over a deal that didn't go his way years ago. Vanessa saw this as her chance and offered to pay the man for information. Together, they created a fabricated story that painted Damian as a ruthless businessman who cheated his way to the top. Vanessa leaked the fake story to a tabloid, hoping it would tarnish Damian's reputation. The headline read, "Damian Steele's Dirty Secret, the Man Behind the Mask." When the story broke, Damian and Naomi woke up to a media frenzy. Paparazzi swarmed the mansion and reporters demanded answers. Naomi felt overwhelmed, but Damian, though visibly upset, assured her he would handle it. Damian quickly assembled his legal and PR teams to address the scandal. Naomi watched as he took control, his confidence unwavering. For the first time, he saw the weight Damian carried as a public figure and the constant scrutiny he endured. Later that evening, Damian apologized to Naomi. "I never wanted you to get caught up in this mess," he said. Naomi, to his surprise, placed her hand on his arm. "We are in this together, Damian. I am not going anywhere." Her words struck a chord with him, and for the first time, Damian realized how much her presence meant to him. Ethan saw the tabloid story about Damian and hesitated. He wanted to believe Vanessa, but something felt off. He remembered how Naomi always spoke about integrity and fairness, and it made him question his involvement. He decided to do some digging of his own. To his surprise, he found no concrete evidence to support the claim against Damian. Slowly, Ethan began to see that Vanessa was manipulating him. This realization became the turning point for him. Ethan decided to let go of his anger towards Damian and Naomi. He knew he needed to rebuild his life, starting with finding his own purpose instead of clinging to the past. Amid the chaos, Damian's grandfather, Henry Steele, arrived unannounced at the mansion. The elder Steele was sharp, intimidating, and keenly observant. He had come to meet the woman carrying his great-grandchild and to assess the situation for himself. Naomi, though nervous, met Henry with grace and kindness. She spoke openly about her plans for the baby and her hopes for a happy life. Henry, though initially skeptical, found himself impressed by Naomi's sincerity. After their conversation, Henry pulled Damian aside. "That woman is a rare gem," he said. "Don't let her slip away." Damian for once found himself speechless. Vanessa's fabricated story began to unravel when Damian's legal team uncovered evidence of her involvement. The disgruntled business associate confessed to being paid for false information. Damian's lawyer issued a public statement clearing his name and exposing Vanessa's role in the scheme. With her reputation in ruin, Vanessa fled town. She had lost everything: her friendship, her influence, and her chance to take Naomi's place. Naomi, hearing about Vanessa's departure, felt a mix of relief and sadness. Despite everything, she hoped Vanessa would one day find peace. With the scandal behind them, Damian and Naomi found themselves growing closer than ever. Damian began to open up about his fears of fatherhood and his longing for a family. Naomi, in turn, shared her dreams of creating a loving home for their child. One evening, during a quiet dinner, Damian surprised Naomi by pulling out a small velvet box. "Naomi, I know this started as a business arrangement, but you have become so much more to me. I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me?" Naomi, overwhelmed with emotion, nodded through tears. "Yes, Damian, yes, I will marry you." The couple decided on a small, intimate wedding, inviting only close friends and family. Naomi wore a simple yet elegant dress, and Damian couldn't take his eyes off her. For the first time in years, he felt truly happy. Henry Steele, beaming with pride, gave a heartfelt speech during the ceremony. "To my grandson and his incredible wife, may you find the happiness that eluded me for so long." As they exchanged vows, Naomi and Damian knew this was the start of a new chapter. One built on love, trust, and hope for the future. Ethan, now working a steady job and attending therapy, watched the wedding from afar through a news article. Though it hurt to see Naomi move on, he finally felt at peace. He sent her a message wishing her happiness and apologizing for his past mistakes. Naomi replied, thanking him and encouraging him to continue building a better life. It was a moment of closure for both of them. Months later, Naomi gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Damian was by her side the entire time, holding her hand and marveling at the miracle of life. They named the baby Henry after Damian's grandfather. Holding his son for the first time, Damian felt a sense of completeness he had never known. Naomi, watching him cradle their baby, knew she had made the right choice. With baby Henry in their lives, Naomi and Damian embraced the joy and challenges of parenthood. Damian softened, becoming the loving and attentive father he never thought he could be. Naomi found fulfillment in creating the family she had always dreamed of. Though their journey had been complicated, it led them to a place of true happiness. Together, they proved that love could grow in the most unexpected circumstances, and that every ending could be a new beginning. And that is it, guys. Thank you for watching Echo of Africa. Thank you for listening. I love you guys so much. Please do me well to subscribe, like, and share this video. And I will see you another time. Thank you and God bless. Bye.